Okay, so for my artist deep dive and reflection, I decided to do it on the iconic David Bowie. So David Bowie is a iconic artist from the 60s, 70s, 80s. He has a major role in shaping all of music. He was a musical artist. He was a actor, a method actor. He had a huge role in movie soundtracks all throughout the past 70 years, it seems. He was a art collector. He was a fashion influencer, costume influencer, and really just an all-around cool guy who supported the arts and participated in the arts in any way possible. So, brief overview on him. He was born to the name David Robert Jones. He is from London, England. He's 5'10". He's a little shorter than I thought he would be. I thought he'd be taller based on pictures that I'd seen. He's a Capricorn, born January 8th, 1974, and he did pass away in 2016 from liver cancer. In his total life, he did produce 422 pieces of music that he has been accredited to. This includes collaborations, demos, songs, unreleased stuff, and in his whole life, he had 22 albums that he himself had recorded and produced. His final album was released in 2021, and his first album being released, self-titled David Bowie, in 1967. However, his final album was recorded in 2001 and released after he had passed away. He also has many more movie soundtrack albums and a whole lot of collaborations. So his entire discography is very, very impressive. So what makes David Bowie so iconic? Personally, in my opinion, he's just an amazing performer. After hearing him on Spotify and watching a few different YouTubes of him, he truly has this captivating way of just enthralling the audience. He has a lot of natural talent, and I also think he works really hard to hone that talent too, which is something I personally really, really respect. He's known for his fusion of various genres: rock, pop, soul, electric, and experimental. He was one of the first major character songwriters, and I'll get into that in a little bit when we go into more on some of his specific songs and his personas. He was also one of the first artists who started the trend of Caucasian people doing R&B. Again, his personas is another thing that he's really well known for, such as Ziggy Stardust. And he's an iconic performance in movies. He was in Zoolander. I learned that. I never realized that it was him playing that, and I didn't realize that he had such a role in so many movies. It's truly incredible, and we'll get into that in a little bit too. He was just a groundbreaking creative artist. He influenced so many people today, just going on a deep dive of how he influenced people. One of the major artists today, such as Lady Gaga, and actually Chappell Roan too, so who are also some of my favorite artists. So, character writing. Character writing is creating music from the perspective of a character. This is used as a way of creating freedom and branching out into different genres, or more or less telling a story. It helps develop the idea of a character or a character's ideas, or a plot point in a show or a movie or in a musical. It helps broaden an artist's song selection and expand into different ideas and their themes in music. It can even be an artist who is referenced in their own music, such as a different identity. So a couple different examples of character writers would be Taylor Swift in her song Betty. Eminem, he refers to himself as Slim Shady. So that would be a character that he writes about, even though it's truly about him. And then Kendrick Lamar also in his song K-Dot, which I found really interesting too. So a couple of his personas. Personas are characters that he created and he used as an outlet to help him perform He used them to embody the idea and fully embrace the chosen path. And a lot of the times, like, his personas frequently overlap to, like, on his albums and when he's performing. And I think this is very consistent with how he uses his characters and his personas as a character writer to really passionately portray his ideas and passions in the music. So in order, some of his personas are Major Tom, that would be from his first album, and then Ziggy Stardust, which is pictured here. This is his most famous work. That was in 1972. Halloween Jack, Aladdin Sane, The Thin White Duke. The second, probably most well-known of his personas is Jareth the Goblin King from 1986, which is a very theatrical and very memorable persona that helped influence his iconic role in The Goblin King. And then his final one would be The Blind Prophet, and that was in 2016 when he had unfortunately passed away. So a couple of David Bowie's most memorable songs. I have the top 5 up here. So Under Pressure, so this one was with Queen, which is probably one of his most well-known collaborations. All these stats are from Spotify, and I do have the sources listed in here. I can point that out. His second most listened to song that he's accredited for is Starman, which I will talk about later. That's a song I chose to deep dive into. It has a lot of streams on it, 690 million streams. For a reason, it's a very good song. It's very passionate, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. And then Heroes, and Space Oddity, and Rebel Rebel. I just want to point out that all of these are in the millions. Like, nothing is lower than 400 million streams. That is insane. Over the course of time, it is clearly shown here that he is a very memorable and loved artist. Across generations. He's been performing for generations, since before my parents were born. Since before my grandparents were born, too. Crazy. So, some of his movie roles that we're going to talk about now. He was in Zoolander. He did a cameo of himself. It's a very small role. That came out in 2001. He was in The Last Temptation of Christ in 1988. And then his probably most well-known role is as Jareth the Goblin King from 1968. And this is him pictured here in this absolutely amazing hairdo. And then one of the movies that I wanted to talk about that helped kind of create his persona for Ziggy Stardust is from the 1976 movie The Man Who Fell to Earth. And this kind of inspired him or got the flame in his mind to have this otherworldly man who fell to earth presence. Otherworldly is a great way that he describes himself and is a vibe he really starts to go for. So, Starman, which is personally my favorite song of David Bowie's that I have been listening to. It's from the Ziggy Stardust era. It is from The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars is the album. Very, very long. It's truly one of his most iconic and popular songs. It was originally released in 1972, but then it was remastered in 2002. This song is about communicating to the young people of Earth through radio waves, and it sounds really melancholic and kind of sad on first listen, but the more you get into it, I feel it's more of like a call to connect with people. Not necessarily in a sad, lonely way, but in a way that he is yearning to be a part of like a new culture and just help people come out of their shells. And so this song became an anthem about hope and salvation in a very tense era of political uncertainty and political injustice. So this song peaked at number 10 in the UK chart and at number 65 in the US Hot 100. The song appeared in the 2015 film The Martian, which is ironically about communicating to Earth through radio waves from a other world, which is the whole gimmick and persona of Ziggy Stardust. It's in F major. It's in a diatonic harmony, which is very predictable to the listener. And I feel that the diatonic harmony gives the listener what they want and what they're yearning for. He uses his falsetto voice to kind of create this very ethereal, otherworldly ring that is very attention-getting to the listener. In the Starman like part of the chorus, very passionate, it's very smooth and very bright. It's 100 to 108 beats per minute, so it's a moderately fast moving song. It is very long. It's actually 4 minutes. So just because it moves at a quicker beat doesn't necessarily mean that it's a fast song. It is not fast at all. The chorus has very clear cadences, which I personally really enjoyed. It's a very soulful and poetic vibe. I, again, didn't necessarily feel it was sad. I feel like it's just using that passion to connect people and hook the audience into the song. It uses a lot of melodic leaps, such as like in the great like Starman part of the song. And I feel like that is part of the hook because it goes from like a lower note to a very higher note and kind of reaches into his falsetto voice, into this light but very deep and passionate tone. So why did I choose David Bowie? Honestly, I feel like he's an incredible and versatile artist who influenced many people. He is very, very well respected. And because he's super versatile, I really do respect that as an artist. In my career as a surgical tech, being versatile is essential. So that is like a trait that I very much connect with, and like just with his role in acting and music, which I also did in school too. I loved being in theater. I loved being in music. I loved performing. So I could really see myself in this person. He's also one of the most famous bisexual artists in the mainstream media. He was one of the first very openly bisexual artists of that era. So he was already like fighting a very controversial battle with just being very odd and androgynous and an all-around interesting man, because as we know, interesting people are typically the most hated amongst more narrow-minded and or boring people. I really like his music. I really do. I wasn't super familiar with him before this project. I knew a couple of his works, most specifically his collaboration with Queen in Under Pressure. And he actually worked with a lot more people in a lot more movies than I realized. So, yeah. Definitely worth giving him a listen. And this is the reference for my Spotify song stats on him.